Perfect. All right, we got AJ coming in. They're going to change mics. Now, AJ Johnson is our guy on 70B. He's replacing me on 70B.
It was about time.
It is about time. Oh, my goodness.
You're a little overcommitted.
I was a little overcommitted. Welcome, AJ.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate you having me
Good
on.
to see you, buddy. I tell you what, this is awesome. The last time, I'm glad we're sitting down, because the last time we were both standing, and he towers over me. Okay.
The seat is the equalizer.
The seat is the equalizer. All right, AJ, tell us who you are and what you do.
All right.
And then we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about 70B a little bit, right?
Yep, a little bit on 70B. So I'm Austin Johnson. I go by AJ. I'm the product manager for our low voltage assemblies here within Eaton. So a lot of my job is to go out, understand what are some of the pain points out in the industry, and figure out, how can we create solutions for them. So, it was, I guess, back in 2022, I got to sit in on some of the working group meetings for 70B.
Right.
It's like, there's a lot of opportunity for it here, especially with where things are. We're getting, a lot of companies are winding up with aging workforces. So we're going to see probably a lot of good maintenance personnel retiring over the next decade. And 70B certainly is making things easier in terms of the amount of work that's out there.
Sure.
So the thought process, at least in my head, was, okay, how do we help? How can we be the assistant? How can we help educate? And that's really what, I'm here for today is I've got my paper that's on Friday, and we're trying to go through some real world examples of an FBA 70B, how you go through and setting up an electrical maintenance plan, even if you already have one.
Okay. So I was talking to Mark Elliott, and I was telling him about, there are people in your life you meet that are rock stars. This is a rock star. So I'm telling you. So what impressed me was you took by the bull by the horns with regard to maintenance. In one of our facilities, you're looking at all of our electrical distribution equipment, and you're coming up with a process to say, how do I take this new standard and implement it in an existing facility? And you're building the tools, and more importantly, the knowledge, the pitfalls, what to avoid, because you're going into the pitfalls, right? You're stepping in the potholes and going, okay, we don't want to do that. This is what we need to do. So you're establishing and working through what others in our industry are going to be doing in the future, or probably should be doing right now.
Yeah. So the idea was, we're going to talk the talk, but you need to be able to walk the walk.
Yes.
And so no better way to do it than to get your hands dirty and actually dive into it. So yes, even though I'm marketing, I do actually like to learn and get into the technical side of things. And that's part of what I try to focus on is
absolutely right.
What are going to be the actual things that people out in the field are going to be experiencing, and making sure I can communicate to them, here's the importance, here's some of the things you may run into, and here's how you can kind of hedge against some of it.
Right. So you're when is 70B first draft meetings? You're going to be there, right? I mean, I don't know that your name has been put on the list yet, or has it?
That won't happen until April, but I will be at the meeting next week.
It's next week.
It is next week.
So 70B Orlando on I believe next week is maybe the beginning or the middle of spring break.
Yeah. Thankfully, I don't think many kids spring break at Orlando. I think most of them are going down to Miami, but we should be okay.
All right.
Airports might be full, though.
Oh, yeah, they will
especially in Atlanta.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh, man. So 70B, you're moving on to 70B. Mm-hmm. You're going to bring that knowledge to the committee and that experience. And that's, when I look at like just me on that committee, I think you are definitely the better fit because you are much closer to actual implementation. And that committee moving forward, because it's a standard now, is going to need more and more of that type of knowledge and experience at the table.
Yep. And it's definitely been eye-opening in terms of just, I would say, how much there is out there that has to be done.
Yeah.
And one of the things I found out with our facility, so our facility specifically that we were working on, they had a lot in terms of mechanical maintenance, a lot of brake presses and punches and stuff like that. They made sure they maintained really well.
Right.
But then I went to the electrical side, and there was 2 generators, a transformer, and maybe 1 piece of switchgear that they were looking at. When I got done doing our full inventory, we had 5 items. We should have had 2,572 items.
Wow.
And I think that is one of the biggest pieces. Is I think people underestimate just the scope of what falls into electrical maintenance,
Yeah.
and just hoping to help people make sure they understand it's a system of improvement. It's
Yep.
not going to get all done in 1 year, and ideally, they're going to put a process in place that can build themselves over time,
Right.
and just be consistently getting better. Because ultimately, that's where you want to be.
Yeah.
Reducing the chances for someone to get injured.
Oh my gosh. And I always tell people 70B, 70E, and the National Electrical Code, the trilogy from a safe
Yep.
installation and over its lifetime, really.
Yeah.
So Robert from Omaha says he still towers over you, Tom, even sitting down. Oh my God.
All right, we'll get a smaller stool for me next time. How
Yeah,
about
we're gonna either that or I'm gonna have to get a cheat seat.
that? A booster seat.
I'm gonna get a booster seat and I'll steal it from the next restaurant I go to. I'll just tell them I have a kid with me. So you're here talking about. So Scott Scott's moving up to principal.
Yep.
You're going to be alternate on 70B.
Mm-hmm.
First draft meeting is next week in Orlando.
Yep.
Task group work is behind us. I mean, how up are you on? Like, do you know of any? Can you give us any little sneak peek on what are the significant items that you're thinking about as you go down there? Is there anything on your mind?
I think one of the biggest pieces is, it was outlined a little bit already. The ability to do continuous systems and being able to use that as a way of kind of displacing like a set routine. And I think a lot of folks already see the value of that because, for instance, if you look at something like continuous thermal monitoring versus a traditional IR scan, a lot of times when you're talking about heating issues, those are things that can be intermittent most of the time.
Right.
You may not necessarily catch it when you're out there doing your monthly, annual scan, whatever you have it set up to be. So the idea is, okay, how do we get more of that evolved in making sure we've got at least the placeholders for it to allow for it as they get developed over the next 5-10 years.
Right.
And the other piece is making sure that some of the nuances that can come up with different pieces of equipment get captured. As an example, one of the things that I saw was particularly like for arc resistant gear. One of the things like for circuit breakers, you have to make sure like the bellows are properly seated across it before you get it, otherwise it invalidates your rating.
Right.
But that wasn't really noted anywhere. So making sure like small things like that get captured in notes that aren't specific to any one manufacturer, but are still something important that need to be checked as you're going through some of this.
Oh, absolutely right. So now we're like trying to get in through some of the details, so to speak.
Yeah, and also there's some of those reserved chapters. As we talk through some of this, what some of those end up shaping up to be. One of the things that came out of one of the discussions I got to participate in was, right now we have kind of motor control centers and motor control equipment kind of all lumped into one. And like as an off spin of that was, okay, do we need to have something kind of separate for controls altogether? So like when you talk ATS very much has a set thing in terms of controls, but you talk like a paralleling scheme. Where do we talk about that? Yes, we have some mentions of it in the individual sections, but we don't really have the full walkthrough of all the things you should validate. So
right.
Like at a healthcare facility where you've got to have like NFPA 99 requirements for genset to be able to come up to speed, take over. How do you test out that control set? Because that's not an ATS piece of equipment. That is bringing up specifically like a main tie generator style.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's something new that I think.
And you've modified your product lines, maintenance manuals and installation manuals, right?
Yes. So we tried to modify them to align to NFPA 70B tables. To one, reduce the amount of like upfront reading that has to be done. You don't have to dive through the paragraphs to try to find the information that's there in a nice, neat format. And the idea is, people will be familiar with 70B, should make it easier then for our products. And encouraging other product lines to do a similar manner, so that way it becomes a very consistent look and feel. And I'm hoping, as the industry looks more at this, we'll see that shift kind of across the board. So it's less homework that people will have to do just to understand, like, what do I need to do for this piece of equipment?
Right.
Ultimately, manufacturers' instructions are what should be taking precedent.
Yep. And your instructions are mirroring the requirements that are in 70B.
Yes.
In a format perspective.
Yep. And trying to show like, okay, this is part of your mechanical inspection. This is part of your electrical. Yep.
Yeah. So you got visual, mechanical, electrical, cleaning.
Sometimes lubrication.
And lubrication. I think that's it. Or is there one more?
feel like there's one more, but it's not necessarily for all the pieces of equipment.
Yeah. But what's nice about the way they laid it out was each of the chapters for the equipment have an article or a section on each of those areas, like visual, and then that requirement there for visual inspection that's in that chapter, say for motor control center or low voltage assembly, there is a table up above in chapter 9 or what? No, chapter 8. Which chapter has the table? One of the chapters has the table in there for frequency.
Yeah, chapter 9.
Chapter 9. So chapter 9 has your frequency. So it's laid out with the same sections that are in the details for that chapter.
Yeah, and chapter 9 is the one where I'm hoping there will be a little bit more elaboration, because getting to see how things happened between 2022 versus what was actually published.
Right.
You know, one of the things that did get kind of pulled back a little bit was the criticality and like the environmental. And I think there's a way to actually add some more defined requirements for that, where there's a precise way to go about it versus just an arbitrary, this is decision based. So one of the things I think for criticality that'll be important is influencing downtime, because that's something that, a lot of people understand the pain points of.
Sure.
And, you talk about criticality right now, it's more on the safety aspect, which is always important. But the other piece is, okay, if you've got a medium voltage switch, that switch feeds your entire factory.
Yeah.
So if you don't have redundancy built there, that is a very piece of critical equipment on it.
Oh, absolutely.
You go down, everything goes down. So that's one of those areas, and I talked about this in the paper. That's what you should start evaluating. Do you need to have redundancy built in? Where are those important areas? Because that could also help you, not just from the safety perspective and making sure you always have equipment that works, but also keeping things up and running.
So you're delivering a paper?
I am.
Oh my gosh, tell me about this paper that you're delivering.
So it was a joint effort with our friends from DuPont, because I wanted to take, I'm doing my project with our local site that's kind of going from the ground up. I want to see what's something that's already out there that already does a lot of best practices.
Right.
And let's scrutinize it and see if we can find anything. And we did find some things. We walked through it. There was a lot of things that did well that I took personal. I'm like, okay, these are probably some best practices. And there were some other pieces that kind of were some surprises. Like, okay, well, there's definitely been some gaps. One of which is making sure you've got an actual fully written plan that covers all your facilities. I think that's one thing that people may kind of overlook. Is part of this is having a defined plan, who owns things, and where to find information.
Right. Okay, so you did how many people were on the paper?
There's 4 people on the paper.
Four of you.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's myself, Scott Brady, Sharon Mullen from DuPont, and then Paul Solomon from DuPont.
Oh, Paul Sullivan too.
Yep.
Oh, excellent.
Yep.
Wow, when do you deliver that, tomorrow? Or no, you do.
No, we're the last paper of the show.
The last paper on Friday. Wow. And then it's probably a race to the airport.
It is.
Wow.
I have an Uber scheduled 15 minutes after the paper's supposed to end.
Oh my goodness. Oh wait, let me check. Hold on. So boots on the ground and head in the clouds. Would like to get contact info for your replacement on 70B, Annex B on instructions, Annex B on 2019. So Robert from Omaha wants your contact information.
Okay.
And Robert, we'll make sure we do that. I'll get him connected. Yeah.
We can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can share and continue to share your knowledge.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
And one of the things I'll toss out there, the learning experience I've gone through writing this paper along with what I'm doing local site. I've got a course that I've put together material for, and I've submitted for accreditation. So I will have like a PDH.
You have a course
that I'll be able to start offering.
OMG. Man, I told you, the guy's a rock star. So you've got a course. You've updated all of your instructions for your product line.
Yep.
You've developed a maintenance plan and continue to lead a team to get that done within our facility. You wrote a paper, and you're on 70B.
Going to be, hopefully.
If that's not a resume for success, I don't know what is. I appreciate everything that you're doing.
Well, I appreciate you having me on here, Tom, and for giving up your seat on 70B for me.
Oh, I would do that. I told you in a heartbeat. I mean, here's the thing: is when you recognize, and this is what our industry needs.
Yeah.
The passion for that topic. That's not your job.
Nope.
If that's the thing. You don't understand what this guy does. What he's doing with the plant, leading that effort, what he's doing on 70B is not his day. It's not your I'll say it, it's not your 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. job, right?
Yeah, that's not what I'm getting paid for. I'll put it that way.
That's exactly right. It's volunteering to share your knowledge and improve the electrical industry. And I will gladly give up my seat on any committee for people that are willing to do that. Absolutely right. Thank you.
All right. Well, appreciate it.
All
Tom.
right, AJ.
All
You
right.
stay out of trouble.
Yeah. Who am I handing off to next?
Oh, I'm not sure. One of them should help you.